Alright, so see, SR 76 is in the garage, and we're going to go ahead and do shocks on it today. Now, that's not a great deal. People seem to, you can find hundreds of videos for shocks, but I'm going to do one anyway just because I chronicle all this stuff. I got the KYB shock absorbers. This is gas-adjust shocks. We'll look at what we can do for those for that. But we're just going to pop these off and pop them on the back. You can see, I don't know if it's hard to see, but you can see there's a lot more clearance in the front than the back. And that's mainly because those old air shocks are pretty collapsed on this. And it's kind of I could tell that when I drove it here from Mesa, and you can tell a little bit when you're driving around, but we're going to try to fix that up today. And then hopefully that'll take some of the slack out of, or some of the space out, though this seems kind of high to me. I don't know. Anyway, we'll do that, and then of course eventually tires for the back. So, all right, that's what we're going to do today. Get ready. Other one off on the other side, adjusting the emergency brake. So I'm doing this early in the morning because it's pretty hot here in Arizona right about now. In case you're not good at doing this, got the jack supporting the car, and then I have the wheel still touching the ground so I can break loose the lug nuts. I don't know about you, but I'll make a suggestion: do the lug nuts by hand, not with a pneumatic gun, unless you've got a pneumatic gun that does the that also does the torque. You can set the torque on those, on some of those, and over torque these. Because what you don't want is to be stuck out on the side of the road and some knucklehead puts these on and you can't get them off. They're all loose enough. I'll jack it up the rest of the way and put the stand underneath. I'm gonna do just one side at a time, I think, today. All right. There's the shocks, air shocks, which I'm sure were added later on. And these are very old. And I'll pull off, you can get a better look at them later on, and you see the rubber's really crusty and hard. I think I showed you on another one. But we'll go ahead and get that pulled off. It's easy, it's just a couple bolts, top, bottom bolts. And I'll show you that when I get to that part here. Supposedly a new leaf spring. There's numbers still on it, so I'll double check it. Make sure it's the right one. Seems to be, because they don't, they're kind of unique for Corvettes because they go across the back of the car from left to right instead of front to rear on the normal car, where they'll start the back of the back here and then it'll go forward. This goes transverse all the way across. So we'll take a look at that, and otherwise we're going to get to it. We'll hit it with a little WD-40. I have a liquid wrench too. I don't think we'll need that. I also have pneumatic gun if we can. I need to get that off with. But they don't look like they're too bad. We'll let this soak for a few minutes. Now I'm thinking about it, I may go jack up the other side and get those soaking too, so I will film that. Alright, so I got both sides jacked up. That's sitting, you can see the old air shock. Receptacle there. Not much to it. Anyway, 2 bolts. Here and here. On the back side. We'll get that one off first. And then we'll work on this one. This one is pretty much just a bolt with this slid onto a post. So we should be able to get that off really easy. You can't even see that, can you? Fix that real quick. There you go. That just comes off, and we'll see how that goes. There's a good look at the. So now I just got to break that loose. It's got some penetrating oil on it, and we'll get to work on that. Looks like we're looking at 11/16. We should be able to pop that off real quick. Or not. I was positive they didn't use metrics. They might have. It's 5/8. adjustable wrench on this because for some reason it doesn't seem to be the exact same size. That's the front. So I'm gonna put that on there. Hold that while we get the rack in here. Alright, let's loosen up the bottom. I gotta take a look at the bottom and see what that actually looks like. Definitely not a 5/8. We won't need the extension on that. Still no. I thought I'd be using an opening wrench to get this thing out. That's what we're going to do. That just means you need even less special tools to work on this thing. Cap that goes on there, and should be able to get that off easy. Maybe it's rubber mallet time. Now when I go to put these on, we're going to put a little grease on there so they slide in a little bit better on and off. Doesn't hurt anything, and it sure makes getting them on a lot easier. little mallet persuasion here so I can get the bolt out. And then we're going to do some that way to get this all the way off. And I'll use 2 for that. Perfect. It should be easier if we have the top off first, I think. So I'm going to put that back. Now let's try to get the top one loose first. There with this. All right, so there's a good look at the old air shock. See where you put the air in. And I was thought, well, it'd be fun to try to blow these up and see. And I might do that later. I'm not blow them up as in exploding, although that's might what they do if I try to put air in. But these are super crusty, so we're not going to mess with that at all. I'm going to go ahead and put this other one back on first. I noticed quite a little drop in the suspension because the suspension's held there and there, and it's on the axle as well. But it dropped a little bit when I took this shock off, so I'm going to go ahead and instead of taking them both off at the same time, I may have to use a jack underneath here and jack that up a little bit. We'll see how much the shocks will spread and see if I can get them in there, but then we'll have to go prepare the shocks. The shocks come compressed with a nylon strip on there. And I don't think they're gonna fit on there like that, but we'll figure that out now. There's quite the stretch here. I'm going to put that up there. So we may just let it expand all the way out. Hang on, I'm going to put you down for a sec. Yeah, so you can see that it fits in there real good. And then, of course, it's really short down here. But I think that's what that's all about. So we'll get this primed up. I'll put a little bit of grease on here. I'll put a little grease on here so it slides off a little bit better. Touch of grease on the bolt when I slide it in and out. We should be good to go. Had a lock washer on it, which I guess is okay. It worked fine, so we'll let that go. There we go. It's I'll probably record it a little bit more while I'm getting it on, but probably not much. All right, so I'm just going to put a little anti-seize on this rather than go ahead and put the grease on it. This will work just fine and it'll serve the extra purpose. I forgot, I actually went and bought a can of this, jar of this earlier. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to use some gloves though. Well, I guess I'm not going to use some gloves. Hopefully it'll slip through like butter. We'll see. I'm also going to throw some on there. Hopefully that'll slide right on there just as pretty as you please. got a ways to go up here. Ways to go up here, you can see how much space it is, so I'm going to let that off here in a minute, but I'm going to get the bottom attached on there, and we should be good to go. Alright, let me get a blade and we'll cut this. I'll try and get it to squeeze right up in there without too much hassle. Again, I'm going to have to jack this up a little bit to get it to fit. We'll see how much rise I get out of it. Both. Go ahead and let it cut here. Perfect. If you do that right, it'll squeeze up in there just fine. And get the holes lined up. See, I don't know if you can see that, but this whole thing rises up a little bit. But it looks like you can see the hole all the way through there, so we'll try to get the bolt in. Anti-seize is there. Of course, it'll take a bit to get that lined up, I'm sure. I recommend using rubber gloves when you're doing this. This one's situated down here, so it should be good. I just need to come up a little bit. So, probably going to get the jack touch underneath here a little bit, get this arm back up so I can get that in there nice and smooth. If I had more room, I could run something to the back, but I don't. So I'm just going to put the jack down here very lightly. Very lightly. Push that up just a little bit. Should give me enough control. Watch. That's going up there nicely. I should be able to get the bolt slid in there. Easy enough. pressure off the jack for a minute, but I think we need to leave it on. Persuasion. And we'll see if they can screw that all the way back in there. So that seems to be the major issue, getting it lined up. At this point, we're done messing with that. There we go. She's back through. We'll toss the bolt back on there, or the nut, rather. Anti-seize makes it so nice to get these back on. Alright, get that all the way. Jack all the way. Now all I gotta do is tighten it up. We should be good to go. Remember, there's nothing happening here other than this is holding it up, so crushing that doesn't really make any sense. And that's why I can view the back part of this with just an opening wrench. And you bust your knuckles, but that's part of the job. Alright, both shocks are on. You don't need to see that, but I might film it anyway. The shocks, the original air shocks, well, not original, but the ones I took off. Alright, so these are the original air shocks, and you can see there's no resistance. In fact, you can hear, I don't know if you guys can do that. If I can pull these in and out like that easy, they're not good anymore. I think if I'm quiet, let me turn the fan off for a minute. You might be able to hear, probably can hear them leak. And that's air coming right out of the valve here. So clearly the valves were gone, because you're supposed to be able to ride up and down on these, and the air's supposed to stay in. You can hear they're not. That's one. I'm going to save these, although now I know they leak. so there might not be much fun to mess with later. Record the numbers and stuff off them so I can see what they'll be able to do shots. But here's the other one. And you can hear the air seeping out. So there's no way these were any good to start with. Plus I wasn't a big fan. I used to sell air shocks way back in the old days. You could go into a store called Montgomery Ward's. I worked there when I was in college, and I sold car parts, a lot of car parts. And so that was one of the big things, is we'd sell the whole kit. And of course, some guys could put them on, many guys could not. So we used to make a few bucks putting the air shocks on for them. And back then, we're talking about 70s, 78, 77, 76. And we had all the Novas still around, and everybody wanted air shocks on their car and give that pumped up look when you put them on. But as you can see, these are pretty old. I've got the numbers here. I can look at that and determine if it's, when they were made, maybe. A lot of numbers on these if you pull them all the way out. So I'll check. They're called Max Air, trademark, USA, and I'll run the numbers. 48785-L, that's the left side, and they're P136H1s. And I think I remember we used to have to look these up to make sure they fit on the car. But mainly, the only real thing was how these were orientated, based on the valve and stuff. So, all right, there you go. So shocks are on. I'm going to put her back down, and we'll check out the stance after I get her down on the ground. Okay, so the vet's back down on the ground, and I think you can see quite a difference in the space with the new shocks on, and more matches what's going on in the front a little bit. Still looks like spaces are bigger, but we'll know when we get all the new tires on and stuff like that. But I think the stance looks pretty good, and we got a little more clearance, so it doesn't look like it's sitting down so far. Although I still think the front looks a little higher, but we'll check it out later on. All right, so all shocks are new now. You got to get rear tires, and then start tearing up on the inside a little bit.